Good afternoon, Henry Gross with you again for another devotional. This one is entitled, I have been saved. How many times have you heard the phrase, I was saved on March the 10th, 1985, or I gave my life to Jesus, or I accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior? These are wonderful and important statements. They have a sense of feel-good associated with them, but also, and more importantly, carry a tremendous responsibility. Even though these statements all begin with I, which is a one-way thought, the statements imply a relationship with God, and more accurately, a covenant relationship with God. In this day and age, we hear about contract relationships or simply contracts. Contracts and covenants are not the same thing. Here are some fundamental differences. In a contract, we are bound together legally, but in a covenant, our very natures are connected. A contract is an agreement between parties, while a covenant is a pledge. A contract is something agreed upon, where a covenant is sealed by a word of honor, or in some cases, blood. A contract is an agreement you can break, while a covenant is perpetual. Many contracts are broken, but covenants are forever. A contract exchanges one good for another, while a covenant is giving oneself to the other. A contract usually involves an exchange of goods and services. A covenant is an exchange of our very being. You can opt out of a contract, while a covenant is about having the strength to uphold your part of the promise. A contract can be canceled, but a covenant is binding until death. One can stop paying in a contract when one party is not fulfilling their part of the deal. However, in a covenant, the party not getting their needs met supports the failing party so that they can meet their obligations. A contract is in dispute when one party fails in that contractual obligation. In a covenant, both sides take responsibility if issues arise. In the Gospel of Matthew, we catch a glimpse of the beauty of a covenant relationship, and we also find out the seriousness of the failure for dishonoring that covenant relationship. He took a cup, gave thanks, and gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you, for this is my blood of the covenant, which will be shed on behalf of many for the forgiveness of sins." And then later on in Matthew, the Son of Man indeed goes, as it is written of him, but woe to the man whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would be better for that man if he had never been born. Now we understand the nature of covenant. Let us focus on the last of the comparisons when issues arise. When we accept that covenant relationship, God promises He will be there for us when the tough times come. "Come to me, all you who labor and are burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and lean on me, for I am meek and humble of heart, and you will find rest for yourselves. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." We are yoked to God. Yoked may sound something burdensome, but on the contrary, when there is a team working together, the tasks become much easier. We all have a load in our life, but God, as part of that team, our burdens become lighter. Since God is yoked to us and everyone else, in essence, we are yoked to each other. Therefore, by inference, we are also in that covenant relationship with each other. Remember that last comparison of contracts and covenants when issues arise. We are called to help each other in that relationship. In John 13, verses 34 to 35, we hear the call and recognition of that covenant relationship. I give you a new commandment, love one another. As I have loved you, so you should love one another. This is how we all know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. It is easy to love one another in pleasant times, greeting someone in the hallway, holding the door, paying for somebody's lunch. However, what happens to that love when you have had a fight with your spouse or someone has wronged you? In these instances, does the command from God, love one another, become null and void? Here is the beauty of the covenant with God, our yoking with Him. When we fail at keeping up with our part of the covenant relationship, He is there to help us through those tough love times. He doesn't fix things for us, but He walks with us to help us through those situations. So how do we work through those tough love times? Practice. Practice where? At home. Sometimes our most difficult people are the ones that we live with, our own family. Loving one another starts at home. It doesn't only include being nice to each other, but truly putting the other person first, looking out for them, and having their best interest in the forefront. It is especially important to extend that tough love when you are angry or hurt. That tough love may be a correction for something your kids did wrong, or a hug, a kiss, and an I'm sorry after a disagreement with your spouse. Remember the covenant. The most important person to love besides God is yourself. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. If there is a failure to love yourself, then extending that love to others becomes very difficult, or at worst, a sham. Sometimes it is easier said than done, true, but remember the covenant relationship. For human beings, this is impossible, but for God, all things are possible. Remember the next time you say, I have been saved. You can simply wash your hands and everything is good. Think of the responsibility that goes with that relationship, that covenant relationship with God. The words, I have been saved, are very important. But remember the other I in that conversation, God. I have saved you.